How's it, everybody? Welcome back to the Rocky Fern. My name is Luca and I have OI Type 4, and in today's episode of Show Me the Green, we're going over the Asia shipment that took many months to get here, and this video has taken many edit attempts to make. This is actually my fourth time filming, and so you'll see later in the salvageable footage that I'm wearing a different shirt, it's a different day, whatever the case may be. I'm also missing some footage of the unboxing. I am trying to get a new computer system and figure out what the heck the issue is. All right, without further ado, let's jump into the video. All right, so back in April of this year, 2023, I made a pretty sizable Hoya order from an Indonesian exporter called Asia, and they had really good reviews, so I was somewhat comfortable making the order from them. And part of making the order was acquiring a import permit, which is actually pretty easy to do. It's not as daunting of a task as I thought it was going to be. And I'd say about 4 weeks later, the shipment came in, and of course I'm tracking it every step of the way. And it got flagged by Hawaii Ag, and I was notified that they found several different pathogens and bugs on their mealybug and several other pathogens. So I had the choice to destroy it or ship it back. Talking with Asia, they said to destroy it and they would reship. And so they did. They reshipped a couple different times, and it was just one thing after another. So the second time they shipped, their phytosanitation process failed, and so the export was denied. Another time they forgot to put the right address or something like that. So months have gone on now, and I'm getting really worried that I've, kind of getting shafted here. So finally, working with Awank over there, he finally made it happen, and it came via New York City. So obviously it passed New York's import ag inspection, and then here to Hawaii's import ag inspection. So I received it. It was not too good of a box. It was super hot. The box itself was super hot. It's wrapped in a super thick, kind of like shower curtain nylon fabric. Some of the plants looked okay. Some other plants looked tore up. And so I decided to immediately throw them into a prop box and just hope for the best. So we're going to go through that prop box, and we're going to see what I have, see what I don't have. I know for sure I've lost a couple dreamy plants. I'm hoping that the roots are good and just the top has died out. But I'm not holding my breath. And so it's been 6 weeks. So let's see what happens in 6 weeks after a pretty long, miserable shipment, and if we can bring them back and kind of the power of our prop box. So let's go. One thing I wanted to show you with the power of the prop box is the plants on the left are freshly put into the prop box, obviously showing a lot of stress from shipment, but the plants on the right are after 6 weeks of being kind of rejuvenated, time to rest. They're a lot greener, a lot brighter in color. They look a lot more full of life. So pretty interesting to see the difference. All right, real quick. So here's my prop box. It is very heavy, and in the bottom I have my homemade pond mix, just for kind of a way to raise the plants off the bottom and still have a reservoir. And then there's a little plant tray in there. So I think what I'll do is I'll take each plant out, we'll get a close-up on it, kind of give you a feel for what the plant looks like, what it's looking like after 6 weeks versus the original footage, and we'll hope for the best. So okay, first plant. Okay, so first up is this beautiful plant. Let me just kind of show you here. I'll get some other close-ups on the screen, but I want you guys to see this kind of really cool, very tight internodal growth, even though the lighting itself isn't too high inside the prop box. But I do have a new growth point coming right in here, which will be hard to tell. I'll kind of point it out on the camera, on the picture I post. But this is Hoya buntok red. And you can see it's already starting to flash some red color. So the buntok red, beautiful Hoya. It's got a very nice kind of smooth, stiff leaf. The veination isn't too crazy on this. It's got a beautiful red underside there. Nice splashing. It looks pretty similar to how I received it, that's for sure. But it's good news. Yeah, this guy's going to be fine. So he'll stay in the prop box until I see new growth. Hoya buntok red. All right, the next one is actually a wish list Hoya for me, and it's Hoya patella. I think it's the pink. I really like the flowers on these, and the foliage is actually really pretty too. We'll get in close here and I'll show you that. A lot of this white is from when they shipped it out. I'm not sure if it's hard water. I do know that they can have typically hard water over there with all the lime deposits that they have, and so it's very well possible that these are just hard water deposits. But this does have a new leaf that formed, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of Thomsonii-esque because there is hair on it. It is pubescent. It's not as hairy as a Thomsonii, and they might be like a sister clade or sister species rather. And what's cool about this is the original growth point that it had when it was shipped to me, and this is all brand new on this side right here. So we have a brand new growth point, and this plant is actually doing really well. This plant could probably come out of the prop box and be just fine. But yeah, Hoya patella pink, and there is a little root coming out of the bottom, which is always a great sign. Hoya can root very aggressively, especially if they're happy. And one thing I will note is I've been using pretty much strictly stratum for my Hoya cuttings, my Hoya propagations. Anytime I'm rehabbing a Hoya, I just feel like stratum for my conditions has been instrumental in the success I've had keeping them. So I do love stratum quite a bit. But yeah, so that's Hoya patella pink. I can't wait for another update, but this is definitely, it's definitely good. It's a survivor, so amazing. I'm really nervous. Okay, pulling these Hoyas out, like, I've been kind of avoiding it because I don't want to have all this bad news. But so far, there's just 2 on there that I know for sure are probably toast, but the rest look really good. So let's move to the next one. All right, so this is the reason why I was kind of hesitant to go into it. This is our first sure, 90% sure that it's dead. This is Hoya lambii. Beautiful freaking Hoya. I was stoked when I got it, but everything up here is dead. I've peeled apart the bark. There's no cambium layer. It's just all dead. There does appear to be roots coming out the bottom, so I'm hoping that there's a node in there that's holding on. I will keep it inside the prop box just in case, but I could cut this top part off and be okay. Yeah, a little disappointing. Lambii red, that was a dream wish list. Rather, it was a wish list plant or a dream plant on the wish list, and unfortunately didn't make that like 5,000 mile journey. Can't blame it. It's funny that it went from Indonesia to New York, like around the world, the opposite, like as far away from us as you can get when we're closer to Indonesia than New York is. So I get that, you know, that's how they had to do it, but pretty interesting anyway. So lambii F, we'll call it 90% gone. All right, let's move to the next one. All right, so up next is a beautiful large-leaved Hoya known as Hoya latifolia red. It used to be known as Hoya macrophylla. It came in with a ton of leaves. They were all pretty much shot, fell off inside the packaging, and had a dried out little growth point here, but it has one leaf on it. It's going strong. I know the roots on this were really, really big and robust, so I ended up putting it in pure coconut chunk, and it's doing really well in this kind of highland system that I have built for some nepenthes. You can see the roots there. They're just huge. Coming up next is one of my favorite plants. It's Scindapsus species snakeskin. Beautiful Scindapsus. I love the color markings on this plant. It is a shingler, and it's going onto this moss pole that I have that's laid out horizontally in a prop box. It is a slow grower like most Scindapsus, but it is shooting out a ton of new roots into the medium of the moss pole, and it looks pretty identical to how it looked when I first received it, but an awesome plant. This next one's actually a really cool Hoya, a really cute kind of, I don't know, like it has like a typical Ficus benjamina leaf. Like it's a very cool Hoya. I can't wait to see this as a big mother plant. I imagine it being very shaggy, very polyneura growth style, just very cool. Definitely tropical vibes. My prediction on this plant is that it's one of those that you should get to add a tropical, to turn your living room or your collection into a tropical looking, to give you that tropical vibe is what I'm trying to say. But this is Hoya evelinae, and you know, it's a very just typical green leaf, if you will. I don't know if you can see that in the background. No, it needs to be backlit, but when it's backlit you can see the veination, and it kind of has like a lighter green mid stripe to it. But I like that kind of overall green color that it has. It's a very nice green. There's no real pubescence to this, but it's doing well. And as far as I can tell, there's a new growth point on it. It did take these plants quite a while to kind of rebound, but this one is recovering nicely, and I don't know too much about this particular species, but I'm excited to have it in the collection. And it's just one of those, I hate keep saying the word typical, but it's just a very nonchalant, beautiful plant. You got to just enjoy it just for the simplicity of the leaf and everything like that. So I'm glad this one's doing well. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, this next one's a very cool plant. So this is Hoya ranauensis, and check out that leaf. How cool is that? Has everything you want. Nice deep veining, nice high contrast, speckling, big broad leaf, somewhat stiff. This has, looks like 2 new growth points. Let's get in there close. You can see this big one here underneath my finger. And then there's a tiny one right behind it. So very cool. I'm loving this plant. Hopefully it grows out to be just a monster, and yeah, it's kicking butt. This next one is definitely doing really well. It's a very robust Hoya to begin with. I have one more in my collection, but this, give you guys a couple seconds to kind of guess what this is. This is Hoya callistophylla, and it's the narrow form. And some of my callistophyllas, you know, do have a pretty squat flower, leaf, but this guy's doesn't. And what I want to point out are these aerial roots right here. Anytime your Hoya is growing these aerial roots, or any plant really, it's thriving. It's doing really, really well. So the fact that it's putting energy into these aerial roots means that it's in an environment where it can do that, has the energy to do that, and it's just all signs pointing to that this plant has rebounded, and it sure enough has this new growth point right here. Well, maybe not. There isn't a growth point here that looks like that broke off. I won't be surprised if it starts to kick out new growth along the nodes. But yeah, what a cool Hoya. Very beautiful. I like it because this has some weird gold fleckling on it, but the new leaf, like this is a new leaf, I believe. I'll have to compare it with the old receiving footage, but I think that's a new leaf. And it's very, very cool. It does look like the dinosaur skin or something like that. Very ancient, very cool. I like it a lot, and so I'm very happy to know that this plant had survived Hoya callistophylla, and that's some more good news. All right, so we have kind of a familiar one, and yeah, a little bit different. So this is another Hoya buntok, and if I can get it like that to you, these 2 leaves right here, I believe, are brand new inside the prop box. So while we're here, let me just show you the buntok green and the buntok red together, and you can kind of get an idea of why they're called the red and the green. I really like this very tight internodal spacing. It looks like it's scales. It's a very cool kind of shingling looking plant. It gives you kind of like an umbrella type growth, and kind of gives me some images of them inside a very rainy canopy, kind of shielding the root base or wherever they're growing from a ton of rain. And they both show a lot of splashing. Of course, this one is flashing red, but this guy is showing some red in there, so that's kind of interesting to see. But overall, the leaf is green, but there's some red there. Now, this plant inside the prop box is being kept underneath a bunch of other bigger leaves, and so that could explain why it's not flushing as much as this one is. So it'll be interesting to see these two growing together. One thing I'm noticing right away on these new growths, the new leaves, they're all rounded. Here's an old one that it came with, pointed, and everything on the buntok red is pointed. So something interesting to see right off the bat. But buntok, another success. Okay, so this is the other guy that I think I lost for sure. It's the exact same story as the Hoya lambii. It is pretty just spongy material up here. When I go to scratch it, there's not much. It's all brown. It feels soft. This is Hoya rintzii. I'm just really disappointed. This is also one of my top dream wish list plants. Kind of good news is, you know, they just made it back to #1 on top of the wish list. But yeah, it didn't seem like it fared well. So let's move on to some more good news. So this guy is awesome. This is Hoya tangamus, and it's definitely like a Finlaysoni clad Hoya or a callistophylla clad. I'm not sure how they're doing that right now. And the Hoya taxonomy, by the way, is just this giant moving bullseye. Seems more so than a lot, but I remember when I got this plant, it had a huge root mass, and it looks like, you know, a lot of the roots survived. There are quite a few roots coming through the bottom. At least I can see them up through the stratum. And there's this new growth point right there, which you can see, which I think is awesome. And that's it for new growth points, but this thing is beautiful. Look at the veination on that. Unlike a clemensorium that has kind of a really rugged toothy edge, this has a much finer edge to it, and nice long narrow leaf to it. It's a very cool plant. I'm super excited that this thing is making it. Tangamus is definitely a very cool Hoya to have. I mean, look at that. That'd be the coolest mustache. That would be, how cool would that be? I would like this mustache very much. But yeah, we'll let the plant have it. But anyway, very happy that Tangamus survived. Let's pull another one out. Okay, so this next one is Hoya amicabilis, and kind of a unique situation going on here. So I do have new growth on this very beautiful foliage. Again, it's like a Ficus benjamina, something like that. Very thin leaf, but not supple or soft. It is somewhat rigid considering how thin it is. It is throwing a peduncle. Looks like another growth point right here. But in the process of pulling this plant out of the prop box, it popped out of the pot, and there's no roots. I mean, there's one root. I mean, one little tiny root, and it's very interesting to see how this Hoya is surviving. So it's pushing out new growth. I will give it a water, and yeah, very, very interesting. I'm not too sure what to make of that. I'm going to keep it inside the prop box, but I'm going to have to anchor it down for sure. But Hoya amicabilis. And this plant is another one of those that I think if it was a fully bushy plant would give you a very cool tropical vibe in your collection, your living room, wherever you could sustain this plant. Right now I don't have any care tips. I don't have an idea of what they like, what they don't like. My guess on this being a thinner leaf plant is that it's a higher humidity needing plant. Of course I could be wrong, but anybody familiar with Hawaii? We have a plant here, a tree here, an invasive tree called the Javan plum, and it has foliage very similar to that. It's a very pretty tree. But yeah, it's invasive nonetheless. But this guy is doing really well. I love how dark this new growth is. That green is, that's my kind of green. So Hoya amicabilis. Anyway, let's keep our thoughts in place, good thoughts for this guy to kick butt, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so you guys want something to brighten your day? This is the Hoya for you. So this is Hoya undulata splash. And what's very interesting about this Hoya, unlike my other undulata, is there is no undulation to the edges of the leaf. The margins aren't undulated. We do get kind of a waviness to it. They're not your typical dinosaur looking rough edge to the undulata. It does look like it's starting to kick out some new growth in between the nodes here. I believe this is a new leaf right here. It is thick like an undulata, and I don't see any roots coming out the bottom, but I think overall this plant is doing really well, and you'll have to tell me what you think compared to the receiving footage of this plant. Yeah, my other undulata, very typical undulata-esque, has some nice silver splashing. This has some pink splashing to it, which I think is just incredible. So Hoya undulata splash, a nice one. All right, this is gotta be one of my favorite Hoyas of all time. I could not tell you what this plant was based on the size of this leaf. Looking at it, it has all the characteristics of this type of Hoya, but I couldn't tell you. And so I definitely think this type of Hoya has different forms, maybe a gigantic form, I'm not sure, but this, my friends, is Hoya caudata. Caudata. And how beautiful is this? All these leaves are original, but it does have aerial growths along the stem, or aerial roots, sorry, along the stem. And it's got one new growth point flushing out, two new growth points, possibly a third, which is crazy. So there's one right there, and another one on this side right here. I know the footage isn't the best, and I can also see a lot of roots working their way through the stratum. So fortunately for me, this caudata is gonna make it, and I am none too happy about it. I don't know if that's the right saying. I'm very happy about it. None too happy makes it sound like I'm the inverse of that, but I'm very happy, so that's it, caudata. Okay, so let's just look at it first, okay? This is, again, probably Clemensorum clad. Look at that very distinct mid-stripe on the adaxial side of the leaf. That underside is amazing. Very rigid leaf, very undulated edge, dinosaur-esque. Thick branch. This is Hoya species Aceh, or Aceh, I think is how I've heard it's pronounced. Let's just look at this real quick. Look how the petiole meets the underside of that mid-rib. Just such a cool transition. Nice strict delineation, and it's that way pretty much all of them. It kind of looks like these plants were fused together or grafted. Very, very cool. I don't have enough to say about it just because it's so amazing. That splashing is something else too. The big blotches of splash, that will get to me every time. That raised veination on the leaf, that's a 3D texture like that. That is cool. You know what? Oh man, I don't want to say it. This is definitely one of my favorites. Definitely one of my favorites. Anyone else have Aceh or Aceh or even Aceh? Let me know how to say it. And then also, tell me what your thoughts are on this. How does it grow? To me, it looks just like a really big scrambler, like just a nice big vining plant. The internodal spacings are quite big on this. That's 6 inches between each internodal spacing. But the good news is I do see some roots on this. Yeah, I just think that's pretty dang cool. So Hoya Aceh, man, Kind of glad I went through this prop box. Let's go to the next one. All right, guys, here's probably the Hoya that's doing the best in the prop box. You have arrow roots galore on this new growth spurt, this growth tip. It's just, it looks like a centipede. It's so cool. And then right there, it has a new growth point. Right here is its second newest growth point with new leaves on it. That little guy is brand new. This is Hoya, I think it's, yeah, rundumensis, and very thick leaves. Holy cow, those are thick. I mean, like this guy right here, you can see next to my finger, that's twice as thick as another Hoya leaf. And they're very rigid. Have a lot of rigidity to them, some splashing to them, which is so cool. I'm a sucker for splashing. I'm a sucker for plants. Let's just be honest, okay? I'm a sucker for plants. Underneath is very cool though. Just a typical green leaf. Has some kind of unique brown splotching to it. And what's cool is there's like some dotting here underneath the leaf, like maybe extra floral nectaries, I'm not sure, but they look like freckles, which I like that. They're on all the leaves. What's interesting is on this really thick leaf, the original, the stomata are kind of covered in like a dark bullseye looking thing, which to me looks pathogenic, but who knows. But yeah, it seems to be doing really well. It's sending out very nice long growths. This guy I think I'll pull out of the prop box because he's doing really well. And I need to start acclimating him to my normal growing conditions. I'll keep him right behind me for now and then eventually move him out to the garage wall. There's some updates going on with the garage wall, which I'm excited to share, but Hoya rundumensis, very cool Hoya. This next Hoya, which is Hoya stenaokai, is a really cool Hoya for a lot of reasons. Has that nice long kind of arrow-shaped leaf, very thick kind of undulations to it, like a Hoya crinkle 8. But look at the color on that. Stenaokai is super dark, super dark. Guess what I found? I found a mealybug. 2 mealybugs. Okay, I'll go through and put a systemic in all of this and kind of treat them. Not sure how they got in there. Could have made it through all the ag inspections. It's very well possible. But yeah, stenaokai, very cool. Overall, just a very dark platform. Beautiful shape to the leaf. It kind of looks like an aroid leaf with the lobes there. Very cool. Very cool Hoya. Maybe what I'll do is after I treat them with a systemic, maybe they'll shoot off even faster. There could be some root mealies I'm just missing. I don't know, but stenaokai, very cool Hoya. It's definitely got some dark leaf vibes, which I'm into for sure. Man, what do you think? That's just awesome. Next one. Okay, so this next Hoya is a very cool Hoya. And you can see the rippled margins to the leaf. Kind of red color, very thick, dinosaur-esque. This plant actually had 2 growths in it when they packed it together, and they both survived. So this one had leaves, this one, all the leaves fell off. And this smaller one actually has a ton of growth spurts on it. Looks like 6 new growth spurts on it. It's just going gangbusters. And this one has 6 as well. Holy cow. They're just really tight in there, and they're kind of sprouting out of all the little nooks and crannies that they possibly can. This is Hoya undulata red. So unlike the other undulata, the splash, you can see what I'm talking about, the undulation to the leaves. It looks like a serration, like a serrated knife. I don't see roots coming out of the bottom, but it's definitely rebounding. And undulata, it's, you know, undulata caudata, and now the tangamus are up there for me. Those are just incredible, just beautiful plants. Even though I'm feeling under the weather, we've had this like flu thing going around and sore throat and whatnot, I can't help but be like super stoked on this. This is so sick. Can we real quick have a tangent? I was talking to my boys, Generation Alpha, Generation X, and slang. You know, growing up, I had slang, and my parents kind of looked at me like I was crazy, saying the stuff that I said, but I didn't feel like it was too far off. Dude, this Generation Alpha stuff has got me like, it's like a whole new language for me, so tangent over. All right, here's another one that's doing really, really well in the prop box. This whole new growth spurt right here is taking off. Growth spurt, growth tip is going through growth spurt and it's taken off. This is definitely one of those that you're gonna have to, I'm gonna have to build like a little cage for it to climb and wind around. But this is Hoya piestolepis, and oh wow, that's a very fun leaf to touch. It's somewhat tomentose, a little bit fuzzy, a little bit rigid. The veination on it's kind of cool because it's lighter, so you can see that. And a very pretty Hoya. It does have some little hairs on it. In fact, maybe I can try to get that close up again. I don't know if you can see that. But what's cool also is this Hoya maintains its little leaf axil spur that I know Polyneura has. A lot of Hoyas start out with a little leaf axil spur. There's a little spike right here at the base of the leaf where it meets the petiole. There's a spur. And these guys maintain it, it looks like. I have another growth point right here coming. And so yeah, very cool Hoya. This guy I think is also gonna come out of the prop box because that bugger is full. But very cool, look at that. You got roots coming along the stem, and so I think I'll build a nice little cage for this thing. But yeah, more good news. You got a new set of leaves coming right there. Oh man. Right there. They're there, okay? They're there, I promise. They're there. They are. Next one. This is a really cool Hoya. It's one of my favorites. It's a multiflora. It's Hoya multiflora javanica, or the Javan multiflora Hoya, and beautiful splashing on this guy. Look at that leaf right there. So if I remember right, these 4 leaves, maybe 5 leaves, were brand new. So they all came within the prop box. It had a bunch of leaves on it, if I remember right, and they have all since fallen off. But Hoya multiflora is just one of those thin-leaved Hoyas that just kicks butt. I mean, it is such an easy Hoya to have. If you don't have a Hoya and you want a showpiece, I'm telling you, they're cheap, they're super easy to care for, they love water, so it's harder to overwater them. And then when they flower, they put on a show, and the plants can be small. I'll post a picture right here of my Hoya multiflora that's in bloom right now. The thing is insane. Maybe 400 blooms on it. Each peduncle could have 30 to 60 different individual flowers on it, and then they just shoot out tons of peduncles. And the plant's not that big, so this javanica is doing really well. It's doing really well. Trying to decide if I should leave it inside or not. But yeah. Not much more to say other than the splashing on it is really pretty, and these leaves should size up. Multiflora typically do have really big, soft, supple green leaves, and it's looking like this guy. If I remember, it did have a bigger leaf, but I don't know if the javanica gets as big as the other multiflora. But what I'm super stoked for is to see the comparison between this multiflora and the standard industry standard multiflora. So we shall see what we're looking at. And I got one more in the box and we're done. All right, let's finish it off with an unusual one, a very cool Hoya. This is Hoya species sumbawa, and it might come from, you know, an island, the Sumbawa Islands. I'm not sure, I'll do some research. But the first 2 leaf nodes have, no, all 3 leaf nodes have new growth points, so that's cool. This thing is doing really well. Thick leaves, you can kind of see the veination underneath, and same thing with up top. I don't know if you can kind of get a good view of that, maybe not, but there you can see the slightly darker veination against the darker leaf. They're not raised, it's smooth up top. There's no tomentose, no hair, but a really cool one. I'm glad I got it. I'm glad it survived. And yeah, man, very cool. So overall, I'm going to show you my favorite of the bunch. Okay, so my overall favorite, which I would have thought for sure before doing this, would have been the caudata or the undulata, but it's the Aceh or the Aceh or the Aceh. You heard me. I mean, look at that. That is such a cool plant. I really wish that the rintzii and the lambii af would have made it, but yeah, these guys are kicking butt. So let's do maybe another update in 3 more months, 6 more months. We'll just have to see. And yeah, please tell me what was your favorite out of all of these plants and your experience with any of them. That would be amazing. The Aceh would be something I would be very interested in knowing about. Any of the weirder, rarer ones like the javanica multiflora, that'd be kind of cool to see flowers on. Yeah, I can't tell you any experience that you guys have buying from Aroid House would be kind of cool too, or Aroid Asia, rather, Aroid Asia. Yeah, but this is definitely going to be my favorite. And if you like what you see, definitely subscribe. It helps me out a ton. The channel is growing actually faster than I thought it would, which is incredible. Thank you so much. We did just have our 500 subscriber giveaway. The plants went out. Everybody received them, and as far as I know, they're okay somewhat. Hawaii Ag was a little rough handling the packages, but only one person in Colorado do I worry about the cold affecting the plants. I'm hoping for some more updates, but yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and yeah, like, subscribe, and until next time, we'll see you guys on the next adventure.